Alright, hello, my name's Ned, and this is episode 4 of a series I call Ned's Declassified League Survival Guide. And I originally recorded this video, and it kind of was a rambly mess because uh, I'm going to talk about builds, and I'm going to start a mini series called Building or Builds or whatever, and it's going to have different parts to it. Because I determined that um, I was going over too many general areas of building, and my thoughts were kind of running together. So, in this episode, I'm going to focus on starting items because I think that's a good place to start. And if you, I guess we could include the build synergies episode I did. If you haven't seen that, you should go watch it. I think it's an important part of making your builds, and I've already made the video. So if you haven't seen it, go ahead and watch that. If you like this one, so I'm going to talk about the logic I use when buying starting items because a lot of my friends ask me in game, "What should I buy, Ned? What starting item is best for this matchup?" And they'll ask me throughout the game what they should be building. So I thought this might be useful if my friends are thinking the same thing. Maybe other people might want to understand the logic I use when I'm building. So the first thing we're going to talk about is top lane itemization because it's something I'm really familiar with. Where I'm gonna talk about specifically for tanks, and I play Scion, so that's an area I'm an expert in. But you can extrapolate my logic to a bunch of different champions. It's not one. Or it's not only for one person. It's one size fits all kind of thing. Okay, so the first thing I'll talk about is the Doran shield because that's a staple item oftentimes on Scion top lane or on a lot of tank top laners. And I'll usually buy this item if I'm against a ranged auto attacked person because the reason why is the unique passive blocks 8 damage from single target attacks and spells from champions. so, so what that means is every time they hit me with a single target auto attack or a spell or anything, it's gonna mitigate 8 damage of that, which is a lot early game. And then it's also gonna give me that health regen and the health pool, so I won't have to back as early, and I'll be able to use my health pod as well, which I run on almost every top laner that has mana. I run biscuits or cookies. I like to call them cookies because I'm American and I'm not British. Silly Brits, they're cookies. Whatever, tangent. Um, okay, so next thing we're gonna talk about. So the Doran shield is for range auto attacks. Next thing we're gonna talk about is the cloth armor 4-pot start. And again, I run biscuits, so this is even better. Uh, so you get so you the reason you get this is if you're in a matchup where the enemy top laner is a very aggressive AD top laner, like Riven or Pantheon or Darius or maybe sometimes Garen is a little bit different because I feel like Sion can trade evenly with Garen, but for those really aggressive ones that have a lot of damage early, you want this. You want the armor to mitigate their damage, and the potions are more effective than a corrupting potion or the Doran's shield health regen is at the very start until you use them all up. So what you're gonna this is like a survive the onslaught of all ins that the enemy is gonna try to do on you start, and it's very effective because one thing that it provides you with is the ability to build into a glacial shroud or chain vest quicker to get your sunfire cape or to get your glacial shroud as fast as possible. Um, so with that being said, you want to get those for the all-in top versus top laners, and then we're going to move on to the final item I'll get on Scion. Oh, I should mention, I wanted to bring up that before, and even now, it's an okay build path. Only into very specific matchups you can actually run Doran's Ring on Scion. This is sort of something niche that I came up with when Scion first was released or first reworked, where his W and his E have AP scaling, but that's not the real broken part about them was their base damage, because the E would deal 50% more damage whenever you shot a minion, rather than just using the E by itself to hit the champion. And so I realized that if you get that mana regen from the Doran's Ring and the little bit of AP it does, that the damage actually makes a difference, and you can just constantly harass and shoot minions at the enemy without taking a hit to your mana because you're lasting getting your mana back. But that's a different season. That's before the nerfs. So now it's only good into specific matchups. Like maybe sometimes you could do it into Rumble, I think. Um, But usually I just bet on the Corrupting Potion now, which is what I'm going to go into. Corrupting Potion um, is good into matchups where you think you can trade evenly, and or matchups where you are going to have a losing trade but they're not AD. So somebody like Rumble is again somebody I'd buy Corrupting Potion into. Maybe Garen, because again I think I could trade evenly with a Garen, a Scion, or a Cho'Gath or something like that. Something where the trades are skill matchup, or you can even out trade them. The Corrupting Potion is going to give you better trade ability, better damage in that time frame, and the health regen is renewable, so you're getting more bang for your buck when you recall. The reason why you get the Cloth 4 is because you want to, on your first, it's to survive that first back, so you can get that first item and mitigate the rest of their damage when they try to all in you, so you become a tanky monster. But the Corrupting Potion is if you actually want to fight with them, trade with them. And the Doran's Shield is if you want to try to mitigate the poke damage. Okay, so those are the 3 items you're going to buy on Scion top lane. We can talk about AD top laners. I don't play Riven, or I don't really play Pantheon either. I know that Longsword Pots is a viable build on them, but I'm not going to go over that because I don't really do it. I either do the Doran's Blade or the Doran's Shield. When you do the Doran's Blade, it's just in a matchup you think you can win. Sometimes I'll go Corrupting Potion, depending so. It's kind of hard to describe. If it's a matchup if it's a matchup I'm fairly certain I can win, I'll go Doran's Blade. If it's a matchup I'm not sure I can win, I'll go Doran's or I'll go Corrupting Potion. If it's a poke matchup again, I'll go for Doran's Shield because I want the mitigation from the auto attacks. Okay. I'll move on. So those are the top lane itemizations. I'm not really an expert on a lot of top lane champions, so it's going to vary from a few of them, but that's the logic I'm sort of thinking about when I'm buying my first item. I'm going to talk a little bit about Teemo specifically as a side rant. Please, please, please don't get Doran's Ring on Teemo. Unless you're going Blinding Dart Max. If you're going Blinding Dart Max, Doran's Ring is fine. But if you're going Toxic Shot Max, even if you're AP, full AP Teemo, you're still going to want to go Blade because the auto attack damage you get from Blade with your ranged autos is just so much better. The sustain you get is better. The lifesteal, the health, it's just all better. You want Doran's Blade because it's going to give you more consistent damage, more consistent poke on the top laner, which is why you play fucking Teemo, to be a nuisance to the enemy top laner. Okay. Also, it's easier to last hit with. Okay, with that tangent out of the way, we'll move on to support items at the start. 80 carry, we're not going to even go over. Buy a Doran's Blade. It's almost like always you buy a Doran's Blade as your first item. But support is a little different. So I main one support, and that's Janna. And I'm very good with Janna. She's probably up there with she's in my top 3 champions for sure. And she's kind of fun in the fact that you can pick between 2 support items at the start, depending on what you want your style to be. So the easiest one, and I recommend this for any support who's new to supporting, is get the Ancient Coin, because you don't have to do fucking anything. You stand there and it gives you gold. And so it's just good for the lanes where you either don't benefit, you don't harass, you're not melee, and you don't you don't harass and you're not melee, so you can't benefit from the Targons, you can't benefit from the Spell Thieves. So on somebody like Janna, who is mainly there for peel and to support the 80 carry when the 80 carries in fights, it's a good item. But there's a secondary way you can play Janna, which is using the Spell Thieves, and that's where you put your shield on yourself and you auto attack the enemy 80 carry and support when they go up for last hits, because you're not going to take the damage if they try to trade on you because you have the shield on you, and then you're going to be able to get the Spell Thieves stacks off and get extra gold from that. And side note, Spell Thieves is the most lucrative gold item, support item, if you can make use of it every time it's up. So if you're playing somebody like Karma or Janna or Nami or somebody, if you can get your Spell Thief stacks off the moment they come up, or if you save up 2 and the moment it turns 3 you can get them all off, then that is the most gold you'll ever make on a support, more so than Targons and more so than Ancient Coin just standing in the lane. If you upgrade it to the secondary spot, like At the very first spot, it's not quite as good as the other two. But once you get the 500 gold upgrade, it's better. Um, let's see. Oh yeah, I'll mention Targons. Targons is good on characters like Leona and Blitzcrank and Nautilus and Alistar and all the other melee supports that are going to benefit from the execute damage from using a melee attack. I see some people get it on Thresh, and that's just because Thresh has an empowered auto that he can use every once in a while to last hit the minion better. I would generally recommend getting the Ancient Coin on Thresh. I know this video I'm only talking about starting items, but I do want to go off on a tangent in this one because I feel like I'm never going to have a better place to do this. When you're upgrading your support items, choosing between the I'm going to talk about choosing between the Sightstone combination upgrade or getting a separate Sightstone plus the active item upgrade, because there's different scenarios where you do either. So with the Ancient Coin, this one is the most like 50-50 deciding on what you want to do. And it's really just going to come down to how you feel in the game. Like I can't really describe it any other way. If you want, if you feel like you need the chase potential and the escape potential from the movement speed of the active item, then by all means get it. But it's not necessary. It's fine to get the Sightstone combination. And also, if you're in a game that's running long, I almost feel like it's better to turn it into the Sightstone combination item because it opens up more item slots to you to buy better tank items, to buy better support items, Mikhail's Crucible, Ardent Sensor, things like that that are going to let you support your team better or be a tank or whatever it is. So if you think the game is going to go long, I would almost always combine them. Uh, we'll talk about the Spell Thieves upgrade because this one is probably the best active item upgrade. The Ghosties are really good. They let you know where enemies are and slow them. It's a great chase tool again. So I would, if you're playing a support that buys this, generally you're going to be benefiting from the cooldown reduction and the AP that the full active item gives you as well. So I would recommend getting this and then also getting the Ruby Sightstone, usually, most of the time. Sometimes I'm playing a character, I was playing a trolley support a little bit ago, I think, where I would just upgrade. Oh, I was playing Scion support. So Scion support, you don't want to, you don't want to get the, because I was harassing with the E to get the gold from it. So if you're playing Scion support, you want to combine them and get the Sightstone combination item because then it opens up the rest of your item slots to be more tanky, and you don't need the extra AP that the active portion gives you. So that's what my thought process. For the Targons or the Relic Shield, I typically never upgrade it into Face of the Mountain. It's one of my least favorite support actives. It is my least favorite support active, and the fact that I just feel it's the least useful. It's okay if the enemy team has like a Zed who can burst even through your exhaust, or if you didn't take exhaust, you need to give your AD carry or your meta shield when the Zed jumps on them. But or like a Talon jumps on them. But other than trying to protect against assassinations, I really think you should just count on the other parts of your kit and morph that into a Sightstone. Because typically on Targon supports, you're going to be going tanky anyway. I feel like, especially on those tanky supports, it's crucial to have those item slots open to get more items to make you a more effective tank into the late game. Okay, so that's my logic for the upgrading the support items. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent. I'm not really an expert on mid lane, and as I mentioned before, AD carry, you just get the fucking Doran's Blade. Uh, but in the jungle, I can talk about Talisman versus Machete. That will not take long. Um, okay, so most junglers are going to go Talisman, and the reason why that is most junglers rely on their abilities more so than their auto attacks to clear the camps. So somebody like Hecarim or Evelynn or Rek'Sai can actually go the Hunter's Machete. Um, Gragas is Sejuani. If you're okay, this is rule of thumb. First of all, if you're AP, go the Talisman. AP junglers always go the Talisman. Like AP magic damage tank junglers, Talisman, Talisman, Talisman. If you're an auto attack heavy champion, like we'll say Shyvana is because she runs attack speed marks, or should run attack speed marks, I'll say, and has her twin bite to get the double auto attack that's going to benefit from the basic attack stealing 20 bonus damage versus monsters on hit. Then that's and you're also going to get lifesteal from hit versus the monsters from hitting them with your autos. Or Udyr, who's running Tiger Stance, gets Hunter's Machete. Or Jungle Kog'Maw, when that was a thing, would get Hunter's Machete because the W would just keep applying that extra 20 damage. So basically, if you're an auto attack heavy champion that hasn't some kind of attack speed steroid, I would recommend getting the Hunter's Machete. For the most part, Hunter's Talisman is typically what you want to purchase. We can talk a little bit about mid lane. There's some like really fancy builds that people are doing where they'll like play Echo, they'll get the Dark Seal, and then on their first back they'll recall and get the Corrupting Potion, and then they'll ult back to lane or something fancy like I don't fucking know. Most part, you're gonna get the Doran's Ring. If you're in a really shitty matchup, like you're Kassadin into a LeBlanc or something, and you're gonna get completely harassed out of lane at the very start, maybe you want to go Doran Shield, or sometimes Fizz gets a Doran Shield at the start. There's some mid laners that don't benefit from mana, like Katarina and Akali, in which case sometimes they get the Dark Seal anyway, even though that gives a little bit of mana regen because they want to put it into the Magi's, or it's just so lucrative in terms of stats, not in terms of the literal gold sense, but if once you get kills, it gives you a lot of stats to get it. They don't care anyway about losing the mana regen. But those mid laners that don't benefit from mana, typically best to get Doran Shield or Boots on those. Okay. With that being said, I think I'll leave off this video. Thanks for watching, and bye.